You exist twice, once as a person and once as a pile of paper. Birth certificate, bank account, lease, diploma, medical file. Burn all of it tonight and you'd still be you. And almost no institution on earth could prove it. That second version of you is younger than the pyramids. What if paper was never invented? Before paper, writing was heavy, expensive, or both. Mesopotamia wrote on clay, durable but measured in tons. Egypt had papyrus, which isn't paper at all, but pressed river reed, and it grew in essentially one place, which made Egypt the stationary supplier of the ancient world. China wrote on bamboo strips tied with cord. One emperor reportedly worked through 120 pounds of documents a day because that's what a day of reading weighed. Then there's parchment, animal skin, scraped and stretched. It lasts 1,000 years and it costs a herd. One large medieval Bible could take 200 skins. Sit with that. When a book costs a flock of sheep, nobody writes a shopping list. Nobody writes anything they aren't already certain is worth a herd. Paper doesn't just store thoughts. It changes which thoughts are worth having. The traditional date is 105 CE. A Han official named Cai Lun brings a process to the emperor. Bark, hemp, worn rags and old fishing nets, beaten to pulp, strained on a screen, pressed and dried. Older fragments have turned up since, so he likely perfected rather than invented it. But his version scales. Then it crawls west. In 751, Tang and Abbasid armies collide at the Talas River, and the traditional story says captured Chinese papermakers carried the secret into Samarkand. Historians doubt it's that tidy. What's certain is that within decades, Baghdad has a paper mill. Spain gets it by the 1100s, Italy by the 1200s. And then it reaches Europe, and Europe says no. In 1231, Frederick II bans it. Official documents, he rules, may not be written on paper, parchment only. Paper rots, and a state's records are supposed to outlive the people who wrote them. He isn't being stupid. He's being careful. He's also outlawing the cheapest information technology in human history because he can't imagine why anyone would ever need to write something disposable. Now the part that should genuinely unsettle you. There's a tradition that's solved this whole problem with none of it. No clay, no skin, no paper. In India, the Vedic texts were carried orally for over 1,000 years before anyone wrote them down. Not roughly. Reciters built layered chanting schemes. The words forward, then in pairs, then in overlapping and reverse sequences, a lattice of cross-checks engineered so a single dropped syllable breaks the pattern audibly. That's error correction, running on human memory, centuries before the phrase existed. Recitations from communities separated by hundreds of miles and hundreds of years match down to the individual sound. So the honest version of this story isn't that records need paper. It's that memory could always do far more than we ask of it, and paper is what let us stop asking. Plato saw it coming. In the Phaedrus, Socrates warns that writing will breed forgetfulness because people will trust marks outside themselves instead of remembering within. He'd have hated us. So what if the pulp process never happens? Not in Han China, not anywhere. Writing survives. Clay, skin, and reed survive. What dies is cheap. The first casualty is the printing press. Gutenberg, around 1450, gets told as the invention that broke history open. But a press is only half a machine. The other half is something cheap to press onto. Gutenberg ran some copies of his Bible on vellum, and those took roughly 170 calfskins each. You can't run an information revolution at a herd per book. Without paper, movable type is a clever way to make expensive things slightly faster. So the pamphlet war never happens. The Reformation, which spread on cheap printed sheets, passed hand to hand, travels by sermon and rumor instead. Science stays in private letters instead of journals. Literacy stays a specialist trade because there's nothing cheap to practice on. And bureaucracy stays small. The word comes from bureau, a writing desk. Administration is what happens when a state can finally afford to write down everything about everyone. Censuses, tax rolls, land registries, court records. China sorted millions of civil service candidates on written exams for 13 centuries. Song China issued the world's first government paper money in the 11th century, which only works if a note is cheap to make and awkward to fake. Take paper away, and a state can still be powerful. It just can't be detailed. It can't know you. Fertilizer fed the soil. The potato fed the population. The horse gave everyone speed. Coffee kept an empire arguing until dawn. Soap kept enough people alive to keep arguing. The wheel became the ancestor of every machine that spins. Glass let us see what was killing us. Paper did something stranger. It made forgetting optional. It moved a civilization's memory outside its own skull, where it could be copied, checked, shipped, taxed, and argued with by people not yet born. And Plato was right. We do remember less. We just remember it together, and for far longer. Some inventions handed people a new power. This one quietly took one away and gave back something enormous,